guys. So, a couple people have been asking me how Stevie Nicks was. So, I didn't want to really talk about it at the time because I was so heartbroken. So, I'm in my pajamas. My husband's working in the city for the next year, so he's only home Thursdays through Sunday. And my daughter went to a girlfriend's house. Now that she can drive, she leaves, but she'll be back a little later tonight. So I was like, I have a couple minutes to myself, and I was like, maybe I'll film a night routine, but I thought this was way more interesting. And I'm finally calm enough to kind of like talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it when I was like such a heightened state, and I know it's been like about 2.5 weeks, but it was like really upsetting. So the whole day, and the only reason I'm talking about this is because someone did ask. I think 2 people asked me how it was, and I was like, you'll never believe it. And I'm surprised that more people didn't know, unless you don't follow her, obviously, but it was on like the news and stuff. So that whole day, I wonder if I should give it just like a very, very brief background. So my love for Stevie Nicks came from my mother. My mother and I really didn't bond over much. She had me really young. My mother had a drug and alcohol problem. My grandparents helped raise me, and then I went on to raise her 2 daughters. And she died in 2015. So I didn't have much to relate to her with. But one thing she always loved was like hair bands, hippie. My mother loved animals. She did pass a lot of her better qualities down for me, like my love of animals, my love of nature, my ability to have when she got older, she had a little more of an even temper. When I was little, not so much, but when she had my sisters, yes. So I did get some of her decent qualities, and then I didn't know much about my father, but the few things I did know, whatever. So for Mother's Day, my sister Hannah, who I've been their mother their whole life practically, we wanted to see Stevie Nicks before. We never got the chance. So we got good tickets and everything. We were going to take our spouses, but then we were like, this is something that only her and I could even begin, unless you've experienced something like our loss, or I don't know how to explain it. No one could understand it. So the day of, I felt strange the whole day. I don't know how to explain it other than I thought I was getting sick, to be very perfectly honest with you. My grandfather had been feeling well. Turned out he had severe pneumonia and ended up doing 2 days in the hospital. Thank you, Jesus. He survived and came home, and he's very good. They had him on antibiotics and all kinds of medications. So I thought I was getting like a little bug. And everyone kept asking me the whole day, like, aren't you excited? Aren't you like nervous? Are you excited? And I kept saying, I don't know. I don't feel anything right now. And I didn't want to tell anybody that I wasn't feeling good. So I was having a little bit of heart palpitations. I have medication that controls that. But I thought maybe I was dehydrated. I thought maybe I wasn't feeling well. And I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want to ruin the day for anyone. So I got ready. My sister kept saying to me, why aren't you excited? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel weird, like anxious. I said, I think I'll be more excited once we get there. So Hershey Park from my home is almost 3 hours. So we get there. The drive there was fine, but the whole ride, everyone kept saying to me, like, aren't you more excited? I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm nervous. I think I'll feel better once we're there. So we get there. And you guys, somehow the way they had it set up detoured you. They detoured you almost 25 minutes out of the way to this gigantic field where we saw tons of people park, but my husband kept saying, like, I don't understand why they're having us park here, because Hershey Park is still like a mile up the road. And I'm like, and I'm telling you, we sat in traffic for so long. We left 3 hours. No, it had to have been longer than that. We left, the concert started at 7. We left hours and hours ahead of time. And by the time we got through all this detour, just because it was like a 25-minute detour, it was like so much traffic. And then we noticed people leaving the area. There was no police. And for the amount of people, because you had Hershey Park, you had the chocolate factory, and you had Hershey Stadium that night. The amount of people, I've gone to all the sporting events in Philly. It made Philly look like a dream compared to this mess. There was no detours. There was no police. There was no police controlling traffic. They had a few people that I believe maybe Hershey paid that were not police, that were trying to, that were very overwhelmed, and I have to say maybe didn't know what they were doing. I think they got overwhelmed with the amount of traffic and people, and they didn't have enough people to compensate for the insane amount of people. I think they expected over 30,000 people there. Finally, my husband gets us to Hershey Park. We realized that we had free parking in our ticket pricing, and it's pushing 5 o'clock. Doors open 5:30. So we have about a half hour to get parked and get in line. My husband backs in. We find an amazing parking spot. We see everybody there. The demographic was amazing. So you had people as young as like little kids, like 10-year-olds that family must have just passed down their love of music to people in their 80s. And I knew they were in their 80s because it will continue. I'll tell you how I figured out how old a lot of them were. And every age in between, every type of person was there. They were all dressed like Stevie. It was just like, I thought, this is my people. I finally found my, like, it just felt like it was going to be amazing. So I was a little nervous because I'm not going to lie, I rely heavily on my husband for almost everything. I don't do anything without him. I know, as silly as that sounds, I don't go to any type of events without him. It was my first big event without him. But I knew if I was with my sister, she's a take charge. They're both Capricorns. My whole life is nothing but Capricorns. I have Capricorns at every corner of my life. They're very take charge people and very type A, like, this is the boss. So even though I'm the eldest and I technically have always been the mother to them, really, if the birthing order really was like correct, Hannah would be the oldest, I would be like the middle child, and my sister Gabby would be the baby. And Hannah always tells people we're like her kittens, that she always has to save from running out in the road by our necks because we just are clueless. Not in a mean way, it's just a running joke between the three of us. So Hannah is very much take charge, so I knew I would be okay. She's like, oh, I got this. I'll ask the lady. Don't worry. So we're getting up there. I was like, oh, there's a girl. Why don't we talk to her? And she goes to the girl. We're here for the Stevie Nicks concert. Can you tell us where the stadium doors open? Because now it's almost 20 after 5. And the doors are going to open in 10 minutes. You guys. The girl goes, postponed. I said, excuse me? Because I thought she was being funny. My mom said it's postponed. And I'm thinking maybe her mom works there. Who the hell knows? So I have to tell you, I don't know if it comes off in my videos. I'm very much, you know how they talk about there's the mean friend, and if you don't know, if you don't think you have the mean friend, you're the mean friend. Well, I am not the mean friend. My husband is a friggin' pit bull. He will rip your neck out if it comes to pretty much anything. He's not afraid of shit, but he's usually the life of the party until if something happens. You don't mess with my husband or his family or people he loves. Sorry, there's a motorcycle. So, I really don't want to have to edit this. I want it to be kind of authentic. Like I said, I'm docile. And here's the other thing. Every one of us at some point in our life have worked in retail. My sisters are still in retail. My one sister just got an amazing job as a cabinet specialist for Lowe's. My other sister is in school to become a physician's assistant, but they've worked in retail since they were young girls. I worked in retail when I was a young woman. My mother was in the food industry. So I understand, even when people are kind of rude in these industries, that it could be possibly they're having a bad day, etc. So I never take my bullshit out on people. I try to always be polite and never like match any bad energy. But something about this girl was so egregiously rude. I don't even know if that word even makes sense with that. I just lost my temper, which I'm telling you, I know some people pride themselves on being confrontational. I wish I could be, and I wasn't. So she goes, postpone. And I said, excuse me? And another couple came out and they're like, we just spent thousands of dollars on hotels and food and tickets, and you're telling me it's postponed? What the hell are we supposed to do now? And I thought it was like a joke. I'm like, and then she said her mother, and I'm thinking like, what the hell is this girl talking about? Apparently her mother saw it on Facebook. Now, there were no signs indicating that there was a postponement. There was nothing. I'm telling you, even the detour signs were not electronic. They were like itty bitty. You could barely see them. Thank God my husband is really good in those situations. So I look at the girl and I'm like, what the? So my husband texted me and goes, he could see us still. He goes, let me know when you get in and you're okay. And I wrote, they said it's postponed. But at that point, he had already gotten out of his car because he said to my daughter, Mommy's playing with her dress. Something's wrong. Get out of the car. And they started walking up to me. He said he knew by my body language and the way I was holding my dress, because I had a really long dress on. I showed, you guys saw the dress, which I won't be wearing ever again. He said, get out of the car, Mommy, something's wrong with Mommy. So they came over to me, he's like, what are you talking about? And he goes to the girl, this has been the most, like at first he was very level-headed. He said, I want you to know this has been the most chaotic, dangerous thing. He's like, I'm surprised there hasn't been a car accident. I know it's like nothing you can, it's just been horrible, chaotic. And she goes, what do you want me to do about it? And shoos him away like this. She just started shooing us away like she didn't want to deal with it. And I'm like, can you get a supervisor? And I didn't say it because I wanted to get her in trouble. I said it because I wanted to make sure she wasn't mistaken. Other people wanted one and she just pointed. Wouldn't say a word to us. You guys, I started to see red because she was so freaking disrespectful. And I thought to myself, like, if I had been in her shoes, I would have felt so sorry for these people. I would have been like, hey, I know you've traveled everywhere. I know you've sent money. I am so sorry, but I have a feeling it's been postponed. We need to find out. That's all she would have had to have said. And I knew it wasn't her fault. And I said, you are so... Fortunately, I didn't want to have to edit this. But of course, my damn dog started barking. So she's like rude, you guys. And I asked for a supervisor and she shooed all of us away. And I'm like, you are an ignorant person. I said, you are treating people terribly. I said, you are awful. And I went to say something else and my husband just grabbed me because he said, at first he thought maybe I was going to chuck my phone at her, which of course I would never do. But you guys, this concert meant so much to me. And all day I had a feeling something was wrong. And it turned out that the concert doors opened at 5:30 and they canceled at 5:29. I went through like all the stages of grief because I know this might not, like my sister and I both said like the level of betrayal, no matter how, we knew it wasn't her fault. We understand emergencies happen, but like it just felt like it was personal. Like it's always us that something happens to. The level of betrayal. I couldn't listen to her music for a week. I was so heartbroken because all I thought was like, man, my mom and I didn't get... Okay, so I'm going to share one little tiny thing. So when my mom was... This Christmas before my mom died in April. So that Christmas, no one knew she was sick. We didn't know she was sick until she got sick on April 1st. She had been sick, but she ended up in the hospital April 1st, and then she died 24 days later. So it was very quick. And she was very, very young. She was only 47 when she died. So I look forward to the day I turn 47. No, I look forward to the day I turn 48. It's just going to be, I feel like the biggest celebration because she wanted to be 50 so bad. I have no idea why 50 was so important to her. So just the idea that she didn't make it makes me heartbroken. But that Christmas, her and I had been really just not good. We barely spoke. I was going through my own shit. And she had called me and asked me to go Christmas shopping with her. And I just was so stubborn. And I hadn't learned about like forgiveness yet. I hadn't learned that I needed to forgive for myself, more importantly, but just to let things go. And I wouldn't go with her. I would not go with her. It was horrible. It's I don't regret a lot in my life because it's just where there's very few things I regret. It's just how you get to be where you are. My biggest problem is I live in the future so much and I worry about what's going to happen. I don't really live in the past too much, but I live in the future to such a degree that I miss out on things going on right now. So I'm working on that as well. So I thought like there was such a short span between when she got sick from Christmas to when she got sick. We just never were able to connect. And I always wonder, like, I'm in a much better financial place. I'm in a much better emotional place. I just wonder, like, I just think about things like giving her makeovers, doing her hair, her makeup, how my skills have improved, how I finally lost weight like she had always wanted to help me lose weight. And not in a condescending or mean way. My mother was a cook, a chef. I just think of all the things I could have given her and helped her financially. I could have had her come live with me and she never would have to worry again. But needless to say, it felt like Stevie Nicks was the closest thing. Any band that she loved, but particularly Stevie Nicks, felt like it's the closest thing I would ever get to being close to my mother again. I know it's, you just, unless you've lost somebody like that, like, you're supposed to bury your parents. Obviously, it's a part of life. And I always say, like, there's only 2 deaths that would be worse than that. And that has nothing to do with this. And that would be your children or your sibling. So I just thought seeing Stevie Nicks would be the closest thing to my mother that I was ever getting. So when it got postponed, I had a bigger fear that it was going to be canceled, to be perfectly honest. So the whole ride home, it was just strange. And then I got home and I didn't really want to talk. And I was kind of angry at my husband because he kept telling people. And I'm like, just stop talking about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it. But I mean, I had no right to either. So then a week later, I was sitting on the couch and my husband, he's a lunatic. For days and days, that's all he researched. My dog's barking again. I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you too much longer. So my husband had been searching and searching. Plus it's getting dark. Not dark, but the sun's going behind the clouds. He had been searching and searching, researching to see if they were going to schedule a date, yada, yada, yada. I'm sitting here. All of a sudden, my not Ticketmaster, I don't know if we got it through Vivid Seats, whatever, it updated through Apple Wallet. I looked and I'm like, Danny, I think they just updated the tickets. He's like, I know. He's like, I didn't want to say it in case it wasn't real. I'm like, no, like, it's updated on my ticket for September 28th. The relief, you guys, the relief I felt, I was so thankful that they didn't cancel it. So I never got to see her. So then last weekend I saw Tim McGraw. So he was another one of my mother's favorites. And that's why he's one of my favorites. Because I grew up listening to him. And you guys, he put on a hell of a performance. We had so much fun. And it kind of made up for what had happened. But I shall come back, part 2, in a couple months. And I'll be back to let you know if I finally get to see Stevie Nicks after all this time. But you guys, I was so heartbroken. I feel so bad for the girl. And I'll tell you how I knew there was 80-year-olds. So we're leaving. We're trying to get out of this. The amount of traffic I've never seen. And I live in a resort area in New Jersey where there's always traffic from the holiday and tourists coming down. our shoobies, which I know not many people know what a shoobie is, but if you're from New Jersey, you know what a shoobie is. I personally love the people coming down. It what keeps our businesses going. I know some people get very nasty about tourists, but we were driving out of Hershey, and this lady, they were older, they were in their 80s. One people were upset because they couldn't find handicap parking, so they walked their 84-year-old father half a mile. That was really hard, but this is what finally kind of made me get very upset. This beautiful couple, she was so dressed up, they were in their 80s. He kind of flagged my husband down because there was nowhere you could go, so my husband pulled over and rolled the window down, and he said, I heard they postponed it. And my husband's like, yeah, and he's like, oh man, and he fist bumped my husband. And I was just, that was it for me. I thought, who knows where they came from? Who knows, like, if some of these people, it would have been their last thing they got to do. Like, I don't know. It was hard for me. But yes, I did not get to see her, so stay tuned for part 2. We shall see. So, that's all. I don't want to keep you any longer. I'm sure this is long enough. Very sappy and silly, but my dogs are about to start barking. Alright, guys. I love you. I'm sorry if you don't quite understand what this was about, but I shall see you in my next one. Bye, guys.